Om Shanti, Baba Saakar Murali, 14th of October 2021. Essence. Sweet children, gain victory over Ravan, the vices, with the power of yoga and celebrate the true Dashera. Question. What is the connection between the Ramayana and the Mahabharata? What does Dashera indicate? Answer. Dashera means the end of Ravan and liberation of the Sitas. However, you are not liberated from Ravan by celebrating Dashera. When the Mahabharata takes place, all the Sitas are liberated. The kingdom of Ravan ends through the Mahabharata war, and so the Ramayana, the Mahabharata and the Gita have a very deep connection. Song. The flame has ignited in the happy gathering of moths. Om Shanti. The Father tells you that you are the Brahmin community. At present, you cannot be called the deity community. You are now the Brahmin community, and later you will become the deity community. Today, on the day of Dashera, their Ramayana is going to end. However, it doesn't really end. If Ravan dies, then the story of the Ramayana should come to an end, but it doesn't really end. It is through the Mahabharata that liberation is received. These matters too have to be understood. What is the Ramayana and what is the Mahabharata? The world does not know these things. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata are connected with one another. When the kingdom of Ravan comes to an end through the Mahabharata war, there'll be no need to celebrate Dashera, etc. The Gita and the Mahabharata also destroy the kingdom of Ravan. Now there is time and preparations are being made. Theirs are violent, whereas yours are non-violent. Yours is the Gita. You listen to the knowledge of the Gita. What will happen through that? The kingdom of Ravan will end. Although they kill Ravan, that doesn't bring the kingdom of Rama. There are the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is for destroying Ravan. These are very deep matters that have to be understood. A very broad and unlimited intellect is needed for this. The Father explains that the kingdom of Ravan is destroyed through the Mahabharata war. It isn't that the kingdom of Ravan is destroyed just by Ravan being killed. The confluence age is needed for that. It is now the confluence age. You are now making preparations for gaining victory over Ravan. It is weapons of knowledge, not physical weapons, that are needed for this. They have portrayed a battle between Rama and Ravan. All of those scriptures belong to the path of devotion. You are now conquering the kingdom of Ravan with the power of yoga. This is something incognito. You gain victory over Ravan, the 5 vices. How? With the Gita. Baba is speaking the Gita to you. This isn't the Bhagavad. The divine activities of Krishna are shown in the Bhagavad, but there are no divine activities of Krishna. You know that when the Mahabharat war and destruction take place, the kingdom of Ravan is destroyed through that. This has also been shown in the picture of the ladder. The path of devotion began at the time that the kingdom of Ravan began. Only you know this. The Gita is connected with the Mahabharat war. You listen to the Gita and attain the kingdom, and the war takes place for cleansing the world. All the divine activities shown in the Bhagavad are without purpose. There is nothing in the Shiva Purana. Actually, the Gita should be called the Shiva Purana. Shiv Baba sits here and gives knowledge. The highest is the Gita. The Gita is the smallest of all the scriptures, because all other scriptures are quite large. They have created even larger volumes of the life stories of people. They created so many volumes of the life story of Nehru when he died. The Gita, relating volumes of Shiv Baba's life story, should be so large. However, the Gita is very small because the Father only says one thing. Remember me, and your sins will be absolved. You must also understand the cycle. That's all. This is why the Gita is made so tiny. This knowledge is for learning by heart. You know that people create lockets of the Gita, and it has very tiny writing in it. Baba also now puts lockets around your necks, that of the Trimurti and the kingdom. Baba says, the Gita is 2 words, Alpha and Beta. This is the locket of the secret mantra of Manmanabhav. Remember me and your sins will be absolved. Your duty is to gain victory with the power of yoga, and then cleanliness is also needed for you. The Father explains that the kingdom of Ravan is to be destroyed with the power of your yoga. No one knows when the kingdom of Ravan began. This knowledge is very easy. It is a matter of a second. In the picture of the ladder of 84 births, it is shown that you have taken so many births. It is so easy. The Father is the ocean of knowledge. He continues to speak this knowledge. If you were to collect all the paper used for Muralis, there would be so much of it. The Father explains to you in detail. In a nutshell, he says, remember Alpha. What else do you need to spend your time on? Each of you has a huge burden of sins on your head. It can only be removed with remembrance. This requires effort. You repeatedly forget. If you continued to remember Baba, you would never have any obstacles. When you become body conscious, you experience obstacles. You become soul conscious at the end. Then, for half the cycle, there will be no obstacles. These are such deep matters, and they have to be understood. Baba has been telling you so much from the beginning, and in spite of that, he says, simply remember alpha and beta, that's all. The tree has a lot of expansion, whereas its seed is the tiniest of all. Such a big tree grows from it. Today it is Dashera. Baba now explains to you what the relationship between the Ramayana and the Mahabharata is. The Ramayana belongs to the path of devotion. It has continued for half the cycle. That means it is now the kingdom of Ravan. Then, when the Mahabharata takes place, the kingdom of Ravan comes to an end, and the kingdom of Rama begins. What is the difference between the Ramayana and the Mahabharata? The kingdom of Rama has to be established, and the kingdom of Ravan has to be destroyed. By listening to the Gita, you become worthy of becoming the masters of the world. The Gita and the Mahabharata are for the present time, when the kingdom of Ravan is to be destroyed. The war they have portrayed is wrong. The war is for conquering the 5 vices. The Father is telling you 2 words from the Gita, Manmanabhav and Madhyajibhav. These 2 terms appear at the beginning and the end of the Gita. You children understand that the episode of the Gita is now truly being performed. However, if you told this to someone, he would ask, but where is Krishna? There is so much difference between the explanation Baba gives us and what the scriptures of the path of devotion say. No one knows what the Ramayana is or what the Mahabharata is. It is only after the Mahabharata war that the gates to heaven open, but people do not understand this. Therefore, just give the Father's introduction. The Father says, constantly remember me alone. The Father says this to the whole world. The one Gita has been falsified. The Gita is preached in every language. There will just be one language in your kingdom. There won't be any scriptures or books there. Nothing to do with the path of devotion exists there. Bharat has a connection with the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Gita. God speaks the Gita to his children, through which they become the masters of heaven. The Mahabharata war definitely has to take place so that the impure world can be destroyed. You become pure through the Gita. God, the purifier, only comes at the end. He says, lust is the greatest enemy, and you have to conquer it. Never be defeated by the vice of lust. It causes a lot of damage. Well-known people, ministers, etc. are defamed because of lust. Many people are spoiled because of lust. This is why the Father explains. Many young people who observe celibacy come to Baba. They never get married. There are also females who live like that. Nuns never indulge in vice, but they have no attainment living like that. Here, it is a matter of becoming pure and becoming the masters of heaven for birth after birth. A burden of the sins of many births is on each one's head. Only when those sins are cut away can you go to heaven. Here, people continue to commit sin. Perhaps a sannyasi does become pure for one birth, but he still has to take birth through vice. No one in the kingdom of Ravan can take birth without vice. Some ask, how will birth take place there? What is the power of yoga? There is no need to ask these questions. That world is completely viceless. The kingdom of Ravan doesn't exist there, so this question doesn't arise. You will have visions of everything. When someone becomes old there, he will have a vision of how he is to become a baby again, of how he will enter his mother's womb. He isn't aware of which home he will go to. He is just aware that he is to become a baby again. There is the example of the peacock and peahen. The peahen conceives when the peacock sheds tears. Male and female papaya trees are also planted next to one another so that those trees can bear fruit. This is a wonder. Since it is like this with non-living things, what is not possible with living forms in the Golden Age? You will understand all of these detailed matters as you make further progress. The main thing is for you to remember the Father, so that you can become Satopradhan from Tamopradhan and claim your inheritance. And you will be able to see the systems and customs of that place later. You become the masters of the world through the power of yoga. So, why couldn't children be born through that? Many people ask such questions, and when they don't receive a proper response, they fall. They have doubts over trivial matters. There are no such things in the scriptures. The scriptures belong to the path of devotion. The Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, comes and establishes the Brahmin, Sun Dynasty and Moon Dynasty religions. Brahmins belong to the Confluence Age. Baba has to come at the Confluence Age. People call out, "O Purifier, come." People abroad say, "O Liberator, liberate us from our sorrow." They don't know who makes them suffer. You know that the kingdom of Ravan is coming to an end. Baba is teaching you Raja Yoga. Destruction takes place when your study comes to an end, and this is called the Mahabharata. The kingdom of Ravan is destroyed through the Mahabharata. At Dashera, they just burn an effigy of Ravan. That is a limited aspect, whereas this is an unlimited aspect. The whole world is to be destroyed. Such small daughters are receiving such great knowledge. Worldly knowledge is like paraffin or kerosene, whereas this knowledge is like real ghee, brackets purified butter. There is the difference of day and night. In the kingdom of Ravan you have to eat oil. Earlier, ghee was so cheap, but it has now become expensive, and so you have to eat oil. Gas and electricity didn't exist previously. So many things have changed in the last few years. You know that all of this is now to be destroyed. Shiv Baba is teaching us in order to make us become like Lakshmi and Narayan. This Baba has this intoxication a great deal. Maya makes you children forget. Since you say that you have come to claim your inheritance from Baba, why do you not feel that intoxication? You forget your sweet home and your sweet kingdom. Baba knows that those who do service with their bones will become great princes. Why do you not feel this intoxication? It is because you don't stay in remembrance. You don't remain fully engaged in doing service. Sometimes you have great enthusiasm for doing service, whereas at other times you become slack. Each of you can ask yourself to see if this is what happens. Sometimes you make mistakes, and this is why Baba has to explain to you. You have to speak very sweetly and make everyone happy. No one should react forcefully. Baba is the ocean of love. People are now beating their heads so much to stop the slaughter of cows. Baba says, the greatest slaughter is to use the sword of lust. First, put an end to that. The other slaughter is not going to end, no matter how much they beat their heads. And the sword of lust should not be used either. There is so much difference between what people say and what the Father says. Those who conquer lust will become the masters of the pure world. Acha. To the sweetest, beloved, long lost and now found children. Love, remembrance, and good morning from the Mother, the Father, Bap Dada. The spiritual father says, Namaste to the spiritual children. Essence Vedana. 1. Become an ocean of love equal to the Father. Never be forceful. Speak very sweetly and make everyone happy. 2. Do service with your bones. Maintain the intoxication that you will shed your old body and become a prince or princess. Blessing. May you be a constant server and, with your love for service, transform your Lokik family into a godly family. The duty of a server is to be constantly engaged in doing service, whether it is service through thoughts, words, or actions. A server never considers service to be separate from him. Those whose intellects always love doing service change their Lokik family into a godly family. A server doesn't consider his home to be a home, but a place for doing service. The main virtue of a server is renunciation. Those with an attitude of renunciation stay in their households as embodiments of tapasya, through which service happens automatically. Slogan. In order to make your sanskars divine, surrender your mind and intellect to the Father. Om Shanti.